So today in my speech, I will talk about how we integrated vibe coding system into Wix website builder. I will talk about the problems that we faced during this journey, where the LLMs works great and where it's not so good, and how we turn this not good behavior into something working great. I think something that you can take from this talk, it's also applicable to your day-to-day job in the engineering, product management, or whatever else. And I will show how we did it with the product. And let's get diving. My name is Igor Kachura. I'm from Wix.com. So next 20 and something minutes, we will talk about how the standard paradigm fails with LLM, how we find the solution for that at Wix, where it was great, and we will also wrap it into agentic orchestration system that we had at Wix, and I will show how it works on the high level. And then we will also talk about challenges that still exist in our system, our outcomes, our summary. So the common problem with all LLMs that is from one single problem, it's super difficult to create a massive and meaningful complex output. Sometimes it works well for some kind of tasks. For example, if you need to generate a big text from some input, it's totally fine. You have a big variety of different possible solutions on the outcome. And for you as a user, it's totally fine to have one of them. All of them are great. But if you need something with the engineering precision, some systems that will work with the payments, with the inventory management, or whatever else, you should be already very precise. And you need only one or maybe maximum two possible solutions from this big amount of possible outcomes. And for LLM, it's extremely difficult to guess what you wanted to see as a system technically. That's where it starts to be more complex. What we wanted to do at Wix, we serve about 300 million websites on the platform, and we wanted to turn our users' dreams into something beautiful and working on the system. We wanted to give users an opportunity to write down 2 or 3 lines of text, and from this text, we wanted to generate a good website for our users. In addition, we wanted to also to give our users an opportunity to change this code if they are developers, for example. It would be an option to go to the code editor, add something to the schemes, to the code, and even more to change everything entirely. And in addition, on the left sidebar, it is an option to work with AI and also make all these changes using AI. There are a lot of small companies that disrupt this market right now, nowadays. All of you heard about Lovable, about Replit, and others. There are also one company that's called Base44, which Wix acquired a couple of months ago in summer. And you may have a question probably, why do we need another one solution inside already Wix website builder if we already have a Base44, and what's the answer? Actually, we need to back a little bit to what is Wix is about. It's about a platform that serves a lot of SMBs, and back in the history, 10, 15 years ago, we started to notice that many users who come to Wix, they're actually businesses, and they need not only a website, they need some kind of application for them, because, for example, they wanted to sell some stores, some products on their website. They need to have an inventory management, more complex system inside. The other user segment that we identified, it was restaurants. It was a lot of restaurants that wanted to have a pickup system inside, delivery, and whatever else. The same also about booking system that allows to book some space and spot in your business, and many others. A lot of disciplines, a lot of user segments wanted to see a fully customizable applications. And that's where our complexity sits. We don't need only to generate a website with some UI, we also need to have a fully working application. And that's where we started. We asked LLM, please create for us a website with these applications, with some deepness on restaurants, stores, and else. And actually, it was fail. it was not successful on the result. As an idea, it was good, but when you receive a website, it looked great, probably as a UI, but applications stopped to work on some moment. And we were also not very sure that when we generate a website with some application on it, that it won't break in some moment on some payment process, for example. And that's definitely not something that we wanted to give to LLM to think about, to think how to make the payment right now. We wanted to give an LLM an opportunity to have something in before. We, by the way, experimented with different approaches how to make these websites. We did fine-tunings, regs, one-shots, and many shots, but all of them went to very complex systems, which cost us dollars in one attempt, not even cents. And for making something more stable, you were required to have many attempts to generate these websites. But anyways, the results were not so good. And as a company, we had here two options. The first one that we consider is to wait for some better LLMs, next versions, AGI, something else maybe will come to the stage next years. But as a company, it was something that we can control. And for us, it was not a good idea, not a good choice to stick with this waiting. And the second option that we had in mind that try to break down this system, this problem, somehow engineeringly. Find where LLMs will be good, where it will be bad, and how the system should look at the end of the day. And we come to the headless philosophy. As I said, you probably don't want to need to give an opportunity to LLM to think about your services, your something big in the system, something massive, stable. You wanted to prepare it for the system, and that's where Wix had a huge expertise in the past, all these applications that we developed. But at the same time, it was an option to have some layer of UI where even hallucination with LLMs will be fine for us. It's not so drastically affects the final outcome if you will have some issues in UI. The websites will be fully workable and user will be feeling very great about the results. And our headless approach sticks with some important items. The first of all, we created a fully functioning service layer, which is a store service, restaurant service, and everything that we had before. We restructured our code to have these layers like separately. And in addition to that, we had an effort to rewrite the UI layer to have the headless components on the web. And all our verticals and business units did this exercise to have these headless components on their side. And style that we left empty. I will show this right now. On the web, we had a component contract which sits on two pillars. The first of all, we had a web functioning elements which is styled in the Radix UI way, which was only functioning code without any CSS, without any additional things. And if you look on that website, it will be just a simple input like from 90s. And also we had separately some skin layers, some skin library, which is here Tailwind, but it could be any other. It's not a problem to connect any other library. And with this approach, we came to that design. So we have some product name, some products that we wanted to wrap in that approach. And inside this product, we have class name, styles, and something more, which we allowed LLM to work only with this part, to add something here, to remove, and to adjust these parts. Everything that was around that, it was not accessible for LLM to deal with. And if we take a look on the more complex example here, we have a service layer which sits on the top with a core product name, and then some arrow functions which will be triggered and change once these arrow functions will receive a new name parameter and will update and render the web layer. That's how it looks more on the complex example. With this approach, when we rewrite everything to such headless ecosystem, the cost dropped from dollars to almost 0 cents. Because right now it was already not too complex to change an application, to generate a lot of services, models, etc. It was only about UI. And users received their beautiful websites, and we were super happy about giving them also application level. Cool. On that, we finished with the most complex part that we had on that moment, and we wanted to go to some orchestration system that will organize everything from the left to right, through all these agents, and also work and generate from user input some results in the website. So the first agent, on the high level, it has an option, it has an intent to receive a user input. For example, user wanted to create a restaurant with sushi, with menu, with some more capabilities. And the main intent of this agent to identify if we have already application ready for this case. For that, all applications that we have in the system, they have their own explanation, what they can do and what, importantly, they can't do. We don't want to install users some system that is not applicable to their use case. If it's not applicable, we have an option to extend this system also with some kind of attempt of wipe code the service layer and models. But if we can install this application, we will do it. And then we have AI reason level, where we try to create the schema, which is fully standardized for us. It is already something permanent. We don't want to have any differences in the schemas, and we ask LLM to be very specific on the output. And at the end of the day, the schema looks like you have which applications you will have on the site, which styles probably you want to have on the site, and other parameters. Cool. With this schema, we are going to the next stage, on the second high-level agent. This is the most engineering part of the job, and the most part of the job that takes time to create a website, because we need to provision the backend, we need to install all the needed services, databases, and populate them with data. We also, on this stage, will initialize needed payments and other things for the system. And after it, we are going to the next third agent, which is the architect engine, and that's about creating the web layer for your application. It's done in the shotgun approach, where you take a code and copy-paste to the needed website as a source code. That's a little bit different from what we had at Wix before, because our websites and our regular approach, it mostly sits on the configs, which we store for each website. And this approach with generated copies, it has some pros and cons. Cons, I wanted to take a little bit on what is bad in that. The fact that you need to support a lot of copies of the code in the different websites, and you have a service layer that is predefined for each application, that's already something engineeringly difficult. You will need to support this legacy if you change some service somewhere in the future. And that's one of the open questions that we still have on the system, how to support 300 million websites and change for them the service layer as well. But rather than that, this approach with headless works purely perfect for us. And let's go to the last and most UI agent layer. We wanted to create UIs. And here we have two different websites that both of them looks great, but they are for different use cases, for different probably products. If I wanted to have, for example, a restaurant with hot, spicy dishes, probably I will need to stick with some more like red colors on my website. And that's that we have also on the system and try to analyze requirements that we have and suggest users something more suitable for their input. There are some additional layer of thinking that we have on that system. And at the end of the day, we received what we wanted to have from the system. We have a beautiful website. We reduced the complexity of application to almost zero, and that's how it works. What are still open challenges? First of all, hallucinations still exist, but with this approach, we stick and reduce hallucination only to the parts of the system that we are allowed to do that. And that's for us totally fine. The second issue and still open question with service layers. We want eventually to also generate some services on the go, and probably that's how we see the industry will be developing in the next iterations. Right now, we already have some examples of how OpenAI generates some websites on the go and some applications. Still, it's not perfect, but that's something that we also can add to our system already when we have stable and permanent services and extend it a little bit with this. And what's good in this composition, that we can use specific LLMs only for that purpose. It could be more pricey LLMs, it could be new LLMs, and it's already also scoped from the whole total system. The next part, which we wanted to bring to this system, which is not yet working on the competitors in this area, it's a drag and drop experience. That's something that our regular Wix users love in our Wix editor, when you can drag some button and drop it on some stage. And the last one is about design systems. When you wanted to generate a website, you need to stick with some design system, where you have some border radiuses, where you have some buttons. Padding's margin should be allowed according to some system with 1-2 pixel distance between each other. And we learned this our last agent to make it properly. By this example of the product, I wanted to show that by splitting a big system by layers, you shift your attention from doing something, for example, with services or UIs. You want it to be fully focused on something that makes intent for you as a user. And I wanted to say that, in summary, as a result, we moved from that big system by splitting the layers to something smaller. And that's, I think, what we can also take for our day-to-day job as an engineers. When I'm hearing that AI doesn't work well, doesn't produce the values that we wanted from it in IDE, for example, it's usually, I think it's because of how we approach that AI. If you will try to split your system, your product task into something smaller and different levels, layers, you will receive much better result. Thank you very much. That was our product case at Wix, and it was a pleasure to be with you.